You have to be able to walk away. There's always deals where like, they're too bad to say yes. You just can't. You're also setting precedent and people talk. If somebody finds out that you did something for 5 grand, for a massive project, they think that's your rate, because that person refers you and they refer you because you're cheap, and those are the kind of clients you're going to get.
Welcome to Girls Make Bank, the podcast show for women who want to learn the art of selling for business and for life. I'm Jac White, seasoned sales professional, entrepreneur, and owner of Honeybees Group. Come back each week to hear inspiring stories from some of our favorite business owners. Learn how to take the ick out of selling and make bank. We're all in this together, so let's get started. Hi, and welcome back to Girls Make Bank, the podcast where we teach women how to sell. And today we are in for a special treat, a skill that I think is super important with a woman that I really respect and admire, Jennifer Justice. In 2019, she founded the Justice Department, which is a business development, strategy, and law firm that works primarily with female entrepreneurs, executives, brands, creative. Before that, she was the EVP of Strategic Marketing and Business Development and General Counsel at Roc Nation. She served as Jay-Z's personal entertainment attorney for 17 years, and she is also the host of Taking Care of Lady Business podcast. JJ, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to get to spend some time with you and chat.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So tell us a little bit about the Justice Department and the work that you do there.
Yeah. So the Justice Department, obviously take on my last name. It's not that other one. I was born out of the fact that I'd spent 17 years as Jay-Z's personal entertainment attorney and then became his EVP of Roc Nation. And during that time, I was also representing a lot of different women in the music industry, negotiating their employment agreements, executive agreements. Well, let me say, I was actually doing men and women. And I saw a vast disparity in the way that women were treated and paid than men. And, in my work with Jay-Z, I had done a lot of advocacy work in general in realizing that I was a really good advocate for people that they were underestimated, let's say. And while things had changed a lot for him personally when he had come in the business to when I left, what I was noticing is things weren't really changing at all for women. So I knew that I was a really good advocate. I knew that I was a good negotiator. I knew how to really maximize deals for my clients. And so I wanted to hyper focus on doing that, but for women. I saw that how men were doing it, giving each other business, paying each other, not asking for free advice. They pay each other. They would, everything is incentivized in the business world with them. And I really wanted to do that for women. And so the Justice Department is just that. It is a business strategy and business development consulting firm in one part called Lady Business. And the other part is the law firm, the justice firm, where I work with and represent, female talent, female founders and executives and help them get the biggest deals that they possibly can. So that's what we do on all sides of, all under the banner of the Justice Department. We help make women rich.
That's a shared mission for me because I'm all about helping women make more money. I don't think anything bad happens when women are controlling their finances,
Right.
Understanding the power of money, making more money. I mean, studies have shown that, when we have more money in our pocket, we spend that money and align those resources towards our values.
Oh, yeah. It's like the economy will add billions more dollars if we
Yes.
made the same amount of money as men.
Absolutely.
That's an actual fact.
You mentioned that you were negotiating contracts on behalf of Jay-Z and Roc Nation and tons of artists during your time there. Where did this skill set of negotiating, because I think it's one of the most important skills that somebody can have in business and in life, is the ability to negotiate well and confidently for yourself, number one. And number two, knowing when you should get somebody else to negotiate on your behalf, because I don't think, you should always be the one advocating for yourself in certain situations. Were there negotiations that happened that sort of taught you this skill, or is it something, where did that muscle get developed?
Well, no, it's doing it over and over and over again, right? Like all day, every day. That's what a contract and a transactional lawyer does, is renegotiate things every day, all day long. And so, look, you apply it to your everyday life. It's a skill that, like, doing a $500 million deal is the same as a $5,000 deal. It doesn't affect me any differently. Maybe there's a little more pressure on the $500 million deal, but it's understanding what both sides want and how to get that, and how to get and maximize what you can get for yourself that really matters to you, while not making the other side feel like they've been taken for a ride basically, and they're not going to be happy in it, because that doesn't help anybody either, right? So if it's an ongoing situation, that is, if it's a one-off kind of deal, then fine. If you're going and buying a car, you get the best possible price, that's one thing. You never have to deal with them again. But when the kind of deals mostly we're talking about in negotiating are ongoing relationships, you know? And so, people can read the Chris Voss book and be like, whatever. That's like
Yeah.
negotiating one off. Like, once you get the hostage, that's it. You know what I mean? He's a hostage negotiator. Like, it's the big difference in that book, and what all of my clients say that didn't resonate with them, is, well, we're usually negotiating as an ongoing relationship, right? We're negotiating an ongoing relationship where we're also super underestimated and always underpaid. And so, how do you negotiate in those situations to maintain a relationship and then also maximize
Yeah.
what you're getting? You know?
And so it's this emotional intelligence, and it's sort of like value exchange that comes into play, and not just all out for yourself and getting the best deal that you can.
I mean, yes and no. But I think emotional intelligence is a huge part of it, but it's also
Yeah.
business. It's not emotion and emotional, right? It's emotional intelligence, and don't confuse the
Yeah.
two. This is business. I just talked to a Columbia Business School class the other day, and we're talking about this is business. When you first start in a career, it can be super emotional too, because you're super excited and you want to do really well and you're ambitious and you're meeting a lot of people there, and it becomes partially your livelihood, and I mean
Yeah.
your extended family, so to speak. But ultimately, it's just, we need to separate those things, because it's not like you can have fun with the people at work. It's still
Yeah.
like they're not your family. You can become best friends. You can marry somebody from your work, but that still is different than your actual company. And it's the business behind it. And that's what people need to understand. It's business and not emotional. You use emotional intelligence in the negotiation, but you still have to be sharp and not give in to the pressure of, oh, we don't really have the money, or do what's right for the company. It's like those things are not, those
Yeah.
are
And I
always red
think that's
flags for
really
me.
important information that you're sharing, because I think when we think business, there is a lot of messaging around make business personal and show up as your full self. And I think there are moments where that is really important when you're building relationships with clients. It's good to show up as your full person and get to know
Yeah.
people as full people. But when you are entering into the negotiations, that's where the business side comes into play, which is what I hear you saying. And I think,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
early in your career or before you've done a lot of negotiating, it's intimidating, it's scary, and it is emotional for a lot of people.
As it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your livelihood. It is emotional. But my point is, you can't let
Yeah.
the emotions like get in the
Right.
way of your best interests,
Yeah.
right? So, don't let that take over when it comes to doing business. Yes, should you get to know people? It's networking, right? It's like come as your full self. Maybe not your full self,
Yeah.
and you
Right.
need to share everything with them. You know what I mean? But like, be authentic is really what it is. It's be authentic, get to know people. It's easier to do business with them. It's easier to negotiate, but then don't back down at your own expense
Yeah.
because you're emotional about it.
And what are some tips that you give people, whether you're talking to Columbia students or your clients? What are some tips that you give to really sort of prepare yourself to walk into a negotiation, whether big or small? I have a young child. I feel like I'm negotiating all day long, and sort of he's getting the better of me. What are some tips to
Yeah.
help you prepare for a negotiation?
First, you need to do, I mean, not with your toddlers, but research. You need to research what's available, like what's available in the market. Like, let's say you're negotiating your salary, either on the way in or you've been there for a while and you want something new title or promotion, whatever. You need to research what's available out there. We have a lot of access to information now with AI and the internet in general, and there's a lot of comps that are out there if you do the research. But you also have to talk to people. You need to talk to your peers. You need to talk to them and find out what they're making and find out what other people in that business are making. And you have to be confident enough to do that. So you have to go into that. Then you have to really think about all the things that you have actually done for the company. What are the things that you have either saved the company money or made the company money? You're either a revenue generator or you're somebody who is an internal person that helps make the company more efficient, either by saving money, keeping human capital, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever part you have in the company, you really have to take stock and write it all down.
And what are some things that you see people do that sort of make you cringe? Like, what are common mistakes that people make when negotiating?
Well, number one is not hiring somebody if they can
Yeah.
afford. If you're a VP above and you're getting an employment contract, you should not be negotiating that yourself. An executive coach should not be negotiating that. Like there are provisions in there that only lawyers should negotiate, and in fact, in every employment agreement and in any agreement that you sign, even a confidentiality and non-disclosure, there is a line in there saying that you have been told to take this to your attorney and have an attorney review it, right? So if it's in there, then that's what you should do. Always, whenever you can, and you can find, yes, attorneys are expensive, but what's more expensive is signing a document that says that you can't compete for 6 months when you make $150,000 a year, even if they fire you for no reason. Yeah. That's really expensive. That costs you a lot more money than the $2,500 that it would cost you to hire an attorney. And I get so many people that, women in particular, that don't hire me because they think it's too expensive. And when they walk out of my office carrying a $5,000 bag, that's expensive. And I guarantee you, if you hire an attorney, you're going to make more money. So that bag, you can buy two of them. Okay? Like you can buy two of them. Like it's an investment in yourself. I just helped a friend of mine who never had anybody help her before. And we were literally looking at our table. I said, you're moving across country. They can fire you for no reason. You have to pay them back your signing bonus, all the money that they use for relocation.
You're in the hole.
Like, if she did not have me look at that, this is just like, and this is not even an employment agreement. A lot of big companies don't have employment agreements, but you need to have, if you're like signing documents and you don't understand, like, you don't know what every single term means, and you can't look it up online. You can't do AI. Like, everyone thinks it's like they can do that, and it's not. And another thing that bothers me is when people, I think it's just a form, like it's just standard. Yeah. There's no such thing as standard. Here's the biggest reveal. There's no such thing as standard in anything in a contract. There's no such thing.
There are 2 times when I specifically remember hiring an attorney to review contracts. Both is when I worked at small startups in New York City where money is very tight. Every single dollar that you have, you're, scrutinizing, should I spend it here? And we were negotiating a multi-million-dollar contract with a huge bank. And I said, I can read a contract and I can understand the business terms, but I think people confuse, to your point, like, oh, this is all standard legal stuff. It's like, I can understand the business and the implications of like this deliverable and how it impacts our business. And can we actually deliver this and fulfill on this? But I am not a lawyer. I do not understand what all of this stuff means. And this is a huge deal that like we need to get right. We have to hire a lawyer to review this and help us make these terms, because guess what? Our client has a lawyer that's doing this for them. We need to have it for us.
Exactly.
And we did. And I think there's this like big guy, little guy mentality sometimes where we think we can't advocate to change some of these legal terms. And that was sort of the view that our company had is, well, we just
Yeah.
really want to work with this big client. So let's just sign off on this. And what we were actually able to do by hiring someone, which again wasn't that expensive considering how big the deal was and 2-year term, to change some of those legal terms that actually like made it safer for us should something go sideways along the way.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
everything is going to be one-sided by the big behemoth. It's one-sided.
Yeah.
Of course it is. So if you're not protecting yourself, like people's companies go down
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't hire lawyers,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
all the time. I know female-founded startups who hired they didn't know how to do it properly, and like a lot of what we hear of women not getting enough equity or founding is
Right.
because they
Yeah.
didn't hire
Yeah.
lawyers. They thought they could look online, you know what I mean? They thought they could look at Y Combinator videos and figure it out.
Yeah.
But if you're starting a company, part of the bootstrapping is having a large enough fund to hire
Yeah.
the right attorneys to do it. I would never invest in a company that didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
I
would
think
make no
that's
sense.
really important. What do you say to somebody who is new in their career and they do want to be able to negotiate and advocate for themselves as they're starting out? I think salary and comp is really important, but just every day within business, I think being able to advocate and negotiate, it happens all the time. All of these micro negotiations happen along the way outside of the big things that we think of. How do you think people
Yeah.
can, improve their skills?
I think one of the things that people don't realize is part of a negotiation is asking questions, right? And you can get a lot of information just by asking the questions. It's like, oh, okay, I see that there's not a term. So what happens if I get
Yeah.
fired? You know, if you guys need to lay a bunch of people off, what happens? Do you get 2 weeks? Do you get 3 months? It's like, okay, let's say you're entry level and you're getting
Yeah.
$50,000 a year, right? And saying something like, I'm really feeling like it's more, I was really thinking more like 65, right? Just those things like, is that possible? You don't have to go in with a hammer and then everybody thinks that you have to do. But if they say no, another thing you can say is like, okay, when?
Yeah.
When is it possible to get these things, right? But you have to ask the questions. And so questioning is one of the biggest things. One of my biggest pet peeves is executive recruiters in general. When they tell you something, I'm going to tell everyone they do not work for you. They work for the company. Whoever pays them is who they're working for. Okay. Nothing against executive recruiters, but they do not represent individuals. They never do. An individual never hires an executive recruiter to find them a job. You let them know that you're available for jobs so they can then find the companies and then they'll get paid by the company, but they don't represent you. So don't let them tell you that, right? I actually think
Yeah.
there's a gray area of some kind of fiduciary duty that they cross the line over
Yeah.
constantly on that, but they don't represent you. The other thing is they ask this question, what is your budget? You never answer that question, ever. Never answer that question, what is your budget? Because you ask the question, what you say back is, you know what, it's more this job and my next move is more than salary. I would like to see the full package. Give me the full package. Never give the first offer, ever. There's no negotiation expert that tells you that. Yeah, a bunch of husbands I know have told my clients that you should really go in there and make the first offer. I was like, okay, you do that. And I guarantee you that's exactly what they're going to offer you because you're going to underestimate yourself. But you can follow me, and then every single time they've gotten, like, some of them have gotten triple what they thought. Almost all of them get double because we're never going to ask for what we truly are worth. You
It's
know,
true. And I feel like,
not as women in
yeah.
particular,
Yeah.
but
I think,
like, you know,
I think a lot of men also, I think in general, it's a human emotion of, especially when you're dealing with your money, of how do you value yourself and value your time. I think that's where having somebody else advocating for you and they can take the emotion out is really important. A lot of our listeners are women who own companies and sell. their own products and services. When negotiating with clients, how do you suggest they approach it in a way that feels good on both sides? And you mentioned it before, like keeps that relationship intact, because this is a long-term relationship that they're trying to build.
It's a difficult situation, and there's a lot of nuance, and without a lack of
Yeah.
context, it's kind of hard to answer that question in a big void, honestly. But I mean, I would go back to like having real conversations and asking real questions and thinking about what your bottom line is, right? So if it's a services business and people want to underpay you, you just have to do the math. What do you normally charge? What would you charge
Yeah.
by the hour? And what would make you feel okay? And is this project actually
Yeah.
paying you $10 an hour? You know what I mean? Which is not even minimum wage, or is it like paying you what your scale is? With lawyers, it's
Right.
easier. We have an hourly rate, and we have a retainer that must be signed by pursuant to our legal license before we can give any legal advice. And so we can kind of figure out what that is and back that out. But with consultants outside of it, even on my consulting side when I do business strategy, business development, it's like I can just back out those numbers and tell you how much I'm willing to spend on this in order to get
Yeah.
any results, in order to make this work. And when you tell people those kinds of things and really break it down, then when they're trying to underpay you, they might get a little embarrassed by what they're trying to do. It's like, I don't want to underpay anybody. I mean,
Right.
maybe you just
Right.
can't pay it. I get it. Then
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
different
That's right.
situation, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's good. And then, at what point is it okay to walk away?
Oh, but that's
Yeah.
just it. You have to be able to walk away. There's always deals where like
Yeah.
they're too bad to say
Right.
yes. You just can't. You're also setting precedent, and people talk.
Yeah.
If somebody finds out that you did something for 5 grand, for a massive project,
Yeah.
they think that's your rate. Because that person refers you, and they refer you because you're
Yeah.
cheap. And
Yeah.
those are the kind of clients you're going to get, and
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
don't want.
And I agree with that. And I think there's a way to, one of the things that we talk about is like scaling back services, right? So using that as a negotiation tactic. So if it's like a package and it's like, look, you don't have this budget for this package, I get it. We're going to take X, Y, and Z away to fit your budget. And if that doesn't work, like maybe now is not the time for us to work together. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I think there's on the flip side of negotiating or signing bad deals, it affects your own. Not only is that like people think $5,000 is your rate, you start to think that's what your time and your skill set is valued at. And you start to undermine yourself along the way.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah. And be careful of what especially when you're working amongst people who you're friends with or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
people should be paid
Yeah.
their value. You shouldn't ask for something for free. It's hard. It's hard when we're getting the lowest amount of money, but like we have to think with an abundant state of mind
Yeah.
versus a
That's
scarcity, right? Because you're not going to make anything in a scarcity state of mind.
It's true. How do you think women can do a better job sort of coming together and helping each other make more, earn more, learn more? I know. Yeah.
Hire each other. Hire each other and pay each other. Like it's just it's the marketplace like we do. You know what I mean? It's hire
Yeah.
someone and then pay them. Use their products and services. And not just hire a woman that ladders up into a man or a big firm where like that at the end of the
Yeah.
day, that's who gets the money. Like you have to do it in a way there's a lot of women who are super talented who came from really big ad agencies or social media places or whatever that are out there, and they might be by themselves. Don't get fooled by the fact that like you feel like you need to hire some big
Yeah.
agency. You can the individuals they're going to work.
Yeah.
They're going to work for you. They have all the skill sets and hire them. So I mean that's the way we're going to really grow and scale. It's like giving each other, making our
Yeah.
own economy, building our own matriarchal system
Yeah.
that works for us.
Yeah.
That's how
I
it's going to
agree.
change.
You actually have a course on negotiation. Can you tell us a little bit about that and who it's for?
Yes, I mean, it has evolved a little bit. I teach a course called Be the Boss of Your Career because so many of my clients that came are like, they're VPs and above, CEOs, C suite, et cetera, SVPs, EVPs. And they all said, I wish I would have known you 10 years ago. Because if they had hired me 10 years ago, you know, even if they were just first starting out, like their income would have been much more. It's really hard to go back and make everything right? If you don't start from the beginning. So I decided to think about it from that perspective. People are going to college, they're going to business school. No, there's not one course on teaching them how to negotiate their salaries. Not one in school. So that's why I started going to these colleges and like Columbia, I'm doing NYU. Like, oh my God, we train them how to be good in the business, but we don't train them how to do it for themselves. And what's the biggest thing that can make you depressed and resentful of your job is not getting paid what you're worth and not knowing it, right? So it's like, maybe you're not going to get everything when you first negotiate, if you finally do, but eventually you will. You need to know what's coming up next down the pipeline. So it's be the boss of your career. I'm actually relaunching it because I'm relaunching it for free. And then you can buy the online record, but it'll be live for free. And then you can get the recorded and the PDF and start building a community around it.
I love that. And I do agree that so many people early in their career, if they could have advocated for themselves better, get a better bonus, get a better compensation package, commission, like whatever those things are over time, especially for young women who are starting out. And again, like maybe you're in a male dominated industry, maybe you haven't been taught this before. Like wealth is accumulated over time. And so the sooner you can start making more money, paying down any debt you have, saving for the future, like that exponentially makes you, puts you in a better position over time. And so I love that you're helping to sort of build that skill set and that muscle while they're young, because it's not taught. And I think people kind of don't want to talk about their salaries. It's still kind of this taboo. And, you sort of have popped that bubble saying, like, if you're going to walk into a negotiation, have all the facts, know what the people around you make, and come prepared with some research.
Yeah.
Where can people who are listening find you, find the Justice Department, find Taking Care of Lady Business?
So Taking Care of Lady Business is where all podcasts are: Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, all of those things. You can find us at www.thejusticedept.com. We actually got the domain name because the other one. And then there you can find everything else we do. We're also on Instagram at thejustice.dept, and I'm at Jennifer Justice L.
Thank
and
you.
That's where we are.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to have you on. I think you shared a ton of great information about something that we all can be better at. And it's wonderful spending time with you. Thank you.
Yeah, same. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Make Bank. If you like what you've heard, please remember to subscribe, like, and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Please review and share our show to help spread the word and help your girls make bank. And I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, or visit honeybeesgroup.co. Until next time, friends.